Grandpa, run! My granddaughter's scream shattered the calm of our family cruise. Her wide, terrified eyes pleaded with me to get off the gleaming ocean liner we'd boarded together. I listened, and that decision saved my life. You won't believe what my own son had planned. Before we go on, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're tuning in from in the comments. My hands shook slightly as I reached for the coffee pot. Not from age, from something I couldn't yet name. The kitchen glowed in the golden afternoon light, everything neat, familiar. I'd lived in this house for 43 years, and still, these quiet moments felt like a gift. The coffee bubbled in its comforting rhythm as I set my favorite mug on the granite counter. Retirement had a way of making the simplest pleasures feel like treasures. Then the phone rang. Derek's name lit up on the caller ID. My grip on the mug tightened before I even picked up. "Hey, Dad." His voice had that tone. The same one he'd used since he was a boy whenever he wanted something costly. "Hello, son," I said evenly, though my stomach had already tensed. "How's everything?" "Well, that's why I'm calling." I could hear him clear his throat, imagine him pacing through his cluttered living room. "We need $8,000 for the cruise. Everything's booked, deposits are paid. The travel agent needs the rest by Monday." I set the mug down harder than I meant to, coffee splashing onto the counter. "Son, you're 42. You have a job. A wife. A family. Pay for your own vacation. How can you say that?" His voice climbed, the familiar whine edging in. "We're family. This is supposed to be your retirement celebration. Time together. And you're worried about money?" I walked to the window, staring out at my perfectly trimmed lawn. Next door, Mrs. Henderson was tending her roses. Ordinary people doing ordinary things, while my son treated thousands of dollars like pocket change. "I'll pay for Lily's ticket," I said. "She's 10. She shouldn't miss out because her parents can't budget." "Dad, come on." Now he sounded desperate, and somehow that was worse. "This is a family trip. 7 days in the Caribbean. When will we get another chance like this? Derek, I've helped you more times than I can count. Your wedding, the house down payment, that car repair last year. When does it stop? This is different. This is about family memories. About. No. The word was sharper than I intended. This is about you expecting me to bankroll your life while you spend money you don't have. I'll send Lily's portion directly to the travel agent. You and Evelyn can handle the rest." Silence. Long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. "Fine," he said finally, his voice turning icy. "But don't blame me when this ruins everything. Don't blame me when Lily asks why her grandpa wouldn't let her parents come on the cruise." The line went dead. I stood there, staring at the phone, trying to understand how my generous, loving son had turned into this manipulative stranger. The afternoon sunlight still poured in, but something inside me had shifted. This wasn't just another handout request. It felt darker. And I knew he wouldn't just let it go. The slam of car doors pulled me from my thoughts at dinner. Through the dining room window, I saw Derek's dented minivan cooling in my driveway. My stomach sank. They were here to finish what the phone call had started. I heard the front door unlock. Derek still had the spare key I'd given him when Lily was born, back when trust came easy. They walked in without knocking. No courtesy. No respect. Just an entitled march into my home. "Frank, we need to talk." Evelyn came in first. Makeup slightly smudged. Hands trembling just enough to notice. Either she'd been crying, or she wanted me to think she had. Derek followed, his broad frame still carrying the echo of his football days, though his midsection told a different story now. He didn't sit. Instead, he prowled the living room, picking up family photos and setting them down with careless hands. "Please sit." I gestured to the chairs, clinging to the last threads of civility. Evelyn perched on the edge of my leather armchair, clutching her designer purse, the kind that costs more than a car payment, like a shield. "Frank, you need to understand," she said, her voice cracking just so, tears glistening in her blue eyes. "We're not asking for vacation money. We're drowning." Derek stopped pacing, planting himself directly in front of me. Looming. Making sure I felt the imbalance of power. "We're 50,000 in the hole," Evelyn said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue that seemed to appear out of thin air. "Credit cards, loans, the second mortgage, and when Derek's company cut his commission last year, we just couldn't keep up. 50,000. The figure hit me like a punch to the chest. "How on earth did you let it get that far?" I asked, though deep down I already knew the answer. The fancy dinners, the designer outfits, the luxury SUV they'd traded up for only months ago. "That doesn't matter," Derek snapped, his voice sharp. "What matters is fixing it. We can roll everything into a personal loan, but we need collateral. Your name on the paperwork. And the $8,000 for the cruise fits into that plan." "How exactly?" I asked. His jaw flexed. "Because we need this trip, Dad. As a family. To show Lily everything's fine, that we're not falling apart. She's been asking questions about why her mom cries all the time." Right on cue, Evelyn's sobs grew louder. "And besides," Derek added, his voice dropping into something colder, more pointed, "if we can't afford to go, maybe Lily shouldn't go either. Wouldn't want her feeling guilty about enjoying a vacation while her parents lose their house." The manipulation was so naked, so cruel, I couldn't speak for a moment. Using my granddaughter as a bargaining chip. "Don't you dare," I said low and steady. "Use that little girl to get what you want." But I knew, and so did he'd already won. I couldn't bear the idea of Lily missing out because of her parents' mistakes. Couldn't stand the thought of her being caught in the middle. I walked to my desk, each step feeling like defeat. The checkbook sat in its usual spot in the top drawer. My hand trembled as I filled in the amount, $8,000. "This is it," I said, tearing the check free. "The last time I bail you out. Do you understand?" Derek snatched it from my hand before I'd finished speaking, barely glancing at the figure before sliding it into his wallet. "Thanks, Dad. Really. This means everything." But he was already halfway to the door, Evelyn trailing behind. The front door clicked shut. I stood there, staring at the checkbook in my hands, feeling like my home had been tainted by their desperation, and by my own inability to say no. Outside, Derek's minivan rumbled to life and disappeared down the street. $8,000. For a week trapped at sea with people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. Not from age, though at 68 my knees certainly felt it, but from the weight of the day pressing into my bones like a winter chill. From the closet, I pulled out my old leather suitcase, the one Margaret and I had taken on our honeymoon to Italy 45 years ago. The brass clasp still worked, though the leather bore the marks of time. Packing had always been a precise ritual for me, shirts folded exactly, trousers hung to avoid creases, toiletries lined up by size. Tonight, my hands moved out of habit while my mind drifted into darker places. When had Derek's gratitude turned into expectation? When had helping my son become an endless obligation? I opened a dresser drawer for socks and accidentally tugged out the folder beneath, the one with my important papers. Bank statements and receipts spilled across the bed like evidence in a trial. The $200,000 receipt for his house down payment, just 5 years ago, stared up at me. "Just help with the down payment, Dad. We'll handle the rest." Under that, the $30,000 wedding bill Evelyn swore was modest for a country club ceremony. And another $15,000 for their honeymoon in France. We want to start our marriage right, no debt hanging over us. The $8,000 car repair from 3 years ago, when his transmission failed. I can't get to work without it, Dad. The insurance check will cover it. The check never came. I sat on the bed, surrounded by decades of "just this once" requests. One by one, I added them on my old calculator. $200,000, $30,000, $15,000, $8,000, plus countless smaller amounts, car insurance, medical bills, Christmas, gifts, that were really loans. The total climbed past $280,000. Nearly $300,000 given away over the course of my son's adult life. I'd spent 4 decades building that nest egg, planning for retirement, only to watch him treat it like an endless ATM. A photograph slipped from the folder. Lily, last Christmas, grinning through the gap in her teeth as she hugged me tight. She'd whispered, "I love you, Grandpa," while her parents argued about whose turn it was to do the dishes. That little girl deserved better than to be used as leverage. She deserved a grandfather who could shield her from her parents' dysfunction, even if it meant standing against them. I put the papers back, closed the folder, and finished packing with a new sense of resolve. 7 days at sea lay ahead, 7 days to give Lily memories worth holding onto. Memories untainted by adult failures. The alarm clock read 9:47 p.m. Early departure meant early rest. I set it for 6 a.m. and turned out the light. The next morning, when I climbed into the cramped middle seat of Derek's minivan, it felt like stepping into a cage. But Lily was there beside me, and that made it bearable. She'd been waiting on my porch when they pulled up, clutching a worn paperback copy of The Secret Garden, practically vibrating with excitement. "Grandpa, look what I brought for the ship!" she beamed, holding it up. "Frances Hodgson Burnett is my favorite author. Do you think they have a library on the ship?" Lily asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. "I'm sure they do, sweetheart," I said, fastening the seat belt across her small frame. I deliberately avoided catching Derek's gaze in the rearview mirror. Last night's clash still hung between us, sharp and silent like static before a storm. Evelyn shifted in the passenger seat, tilting her mirror so she could watch us. Her manicured nails tapped a steady, needling rhythm on the armrest. Every so often, she'd glance at me through the reflection, offering a smile so practiced it couldn't have been more hollow if she tried. "Look, Grandpa!" Lily pressed her face to the window as the skyline grew. "The buildings are getting taller. It's like we're driving into a forest made of glass." Her delight was contagious. Despite everything, I felt a real smile tug at my mouth for the first time since Derek's call the day before. Children can find wonder in places adults only see as commerce and concrete. "That's Manhattan, Princess," I said. "See that tall one with the pointed top? That's the Chrysler Building. It was built when my grandfather was a young man." "Your grandfather?" Her eyes went wide. "That means my great-great-grandfather. Was he alive when dinosaurs were?" "Not quite." I chuckled, ruffling her hair. "But he did see the first cars rattling down dirt roads." Traffic thickened as we neared Brooklyn. Derek's knuckles blanched against the wheel, his jaw tightening each time someone cut him off. I could almost feel the weight of yesterday's $8,000 check pressing on all 3 of us. Burden for me, resentment for him, calculation for her. "Money can buy a lot of things," Evelyn said suddenly, her tone syrupy but with an edge sharp enough to draw blood. "But it can't buy real affection. Right, Frank?" It was a deliberate strike, meant to plant doubt in my bond with Lily. "I love Grandpa anyway," Lily blurted, her voice fierce and clear. "He's the best in the whole world, and money doesn't matter." My chest ached with protectiveness. This child should never have to defend her love for me, least of all to her own mother. "That's right, sweetheart," I said, meeting Evelyn's eyes in the mirror. "You're worth more to me than all the gold in the world." Derek's hands tightened further on the wheel. His face darkened as he realized his daughter's loyalty wasn't something he, or anyone, could buy. The air in the van shifted as the scent of salt water seeped in through the vents. Seagulls wheeled overhead, their calls sharp against the morning sky. Lily practically bounced out of her seat as towering cargo cranes came into view, followed by the distant rise of smokestacks against the horizon. "Is that our ship, Grandpa? Is that the Ocean Majesty?" "Not yet, Princess. But we're close." The closer we got, the more her excitement swelled, and the more Derek's anger seemed to simmer beneath the surface. By the time we finally rolled into the terminal, stepping out of that van felt like escaping a sealed room. The cruise port teemed with families dragging luggage, snapping photos, and chattering in half a dozen languages. And then, through the terminal's floor-to-ceiling glass, I saw it. "Sweet mother of pearl," I murmured, borrowing one of my father's old sayings. The Ocean Majesty loomed 15 stories high, her white hull gleaming like polished ivory under the April sun. Tier upon tier of balconies stretched the length of her, and at the top, pools glittered like sapphire jewels. "Grandpa, that's not a ship," Lily breathed. "That's a floating palace." I took her hand, smiling. "According to the brochure, she carries 3,000 passengers, and 1,500 crew to look after them." Derek and Evelyn joined us, hauling luggage. They stared at the ship, Evelyn with wide-eyed wonder, Derek with a look that was half awe, half mental arithmetic. The security line split us up briefly. I watched Lily bounce in place while a guard searched her little backpack, her joy so pure it almost hurt to see. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt that kind of happiness myself. "Welcome aboard the Ocean Majesty." Captain Johnson's voice rolled through the terminal speakers, warm yet commanding. "We're setting sail on a spectacular 7-day voyage to the Caribbean. All guests should be on board by 11:30 for our noon departure." The gangway stretched out in front of us. A bridge between two worlds. Behind us, the noisy grid of New York Harbor, honking horns, the tang of diesel, a skyline of glass and concrete. Ahead, a floating haven of indulgence and calm. Our footsteps rang against the steel walkway as we moved over the water. Lily clutched my hand, not from fear, but from a kind of uncontainable anticipation. The breeze off the harbor carried salt and the promise of adventure. "Mr. Miller?" A steward in a crisp white uniform greeted us at the entrance, his name tag reading Roberto. "Yes," I replied. "Welcome, Mr. Frank Miller, party of 4. You'll be in an Ocean View suite on deck 8, starboard side. Mr. Derek Miller, your interior stateroom is on deck 5. He handed us 2 sets of keycards, mine edged in gold, Derek's plain white. "The elevators are clearly marked. Would you like assistance to your cabins?" It was subtle, but the difference was there. My suite versus Derek's budget cabin. Even with my contribution, this was all he could swing. "We'll manage," Derek said tightly, slipping his card into his pocket without meeting my eyes. The elevator ride split us for the first time, different decks, different worlds. When Lily and I stepped out onto deck 8, she stopped short. The hallways were wide, lined with framed art. Even the carpet whispered luxury. Our door opened to a sitting area with floor-to-ceiling windows looking over the harbor. But the real gem was beyond the sliding glass door. "Grandpa, come look!" Lily had already stepped onto the balcony. "We can see everything. The whole harbor. And the Statue of Liberty's waving at us." I joined her outside, the air tasting of salt and freedom. Below, tugboats nudged cargo ships into place while speedboats wove between them like darting fish. Far off, Lady Liberty held her torch high against the sky streaked with white clouds. For the first time since Derek's call yesterday, my shoulders loosened. Here, with the ocean stretched before us, the heavy shadow of family tension felt distant. The ship's horn sounded, deep, resonant, vibrating through the deck. Manhattan's skyline began to recede, shrinking into the horizon. The Statue of Liberty drifted past close enough that I could see the texture of her copper skin, tourists scattered like ants at her base. This was peace. I'd almost forgotten what that felt like. The main dining room at lunch was alive with the buzz of 3,000 passengers beginning their journey. Tables filled with laughing families, couples leaning in close over glasses of wine, grandparents snapping photos of grandkids. 1,000 tiny stories starting all at once, none of them tangled in the web of financial strings that always seemed to hang over conversations with my son. "Mr. Miller, may I offer you our signature welcome cocktail?" A waiter appeared beside my chair, tray balanced with jewel-toned drinks crowned with tiny umbrellas. "It's complimentary with your sweet package," he added. "Thank you, but I'm enjoying the view for now." I nodded toward the massive windows framing the New Jersey shoreline as it slipped by like a painted set piece. Later, Lily found the kids' club, a miniature wonderland stocked with games, crafts, and endless activities. I watched from the observation window as she introduced herself to other children, her fearless 10-year-old confidence making quick friends. "Can we go swimming after the magician show?" she asked breathlessly when she found me reading in the ship's library. "They have 3 pools, Grandpa, and one has a giant sea serpent slide." "Of course, Princess," I said. "This week is all about you." For the first time in months, I was truly reading for pleasure. The library's leather chairs faced panoramic ocean views, and the slow, steady motion of the ship made each page feel like part of a gentle rhythm. No calls asking for money. No accusations disguised as family concern. Just the horizon, my book, and a quiet I'd been missing for too long. By late afternoon, the pool deck revealed itself like a postcard come to life. Lily splashed happily in the shallow end while I lounged in a cushioned deck chair, keeping watch and marveling at the precision required to engineer this floating city. Tiered pools, steaming hot tubs, and wide sun decks sprawled across the ship's beam, all gliding smoothly through Atlantic swells at 23 knots. "Sir, afternoon tea is now being served on the sky deck," a crew member said as Lily practiced her backstroke. "Fresh scones, finger sandwiches, and views you'll never forget." The idea carried me to a different time. China cups clinking, silver trays gleaming, cucumber sandwiches sliced into perfect triangles, all while the horizon stretched in every direction. It was a genteel kind of luxury, the sort that made you feel the world had slowed down. I hadn't realized how much weight I'd been carrying until I felt it begin to dissolve, drifting off like morning mist. "Grandpa, guess what I learned today?" Lily appeared in the tea room still damp from the pool, her hair wild and her eyes bright. "There's a rock climbing wall 6 stories high, and tonight there's a Broadway show in the theater, and tomorrow we can go snorkeling in Bermuda." Her excitement was contagious. In that moment, despite Derek's manipulations, Evelyn's envy, the constant financial strain, life was perfect. My granddaughter was happy. The sea was calm. We had an entire week ahead to build memories worth keeping. As the sun dipped lower, I helped Lily choose an outfit for dinner while her parents got ready somewhere on a lower deck. The dining room required resort casual, which meant Lily could finally wear the yellow sundress her grandmother had given her last summer. "Do I look fancy enough for a real ship's dining room, Grandpa?" she asked, spinning for my approval. "You look like royalty, sweetheart, the most beautiful princess on the 7 seas." After tucking her into her bunk in her parents' cabin, I offered Derek and Evelyn a polite goodnight, masking the underlying strain, and made my way back to my suite. Tomorrow morning we'd wake to Bermuda's turquoise waters. Lily would snorkel for the first time, chase fish through coral shallows, and collect shells from pink sand. The thought felt like unwrapping a gift. 7 days of joy before reality intruded again. The sunset bled coral and gold across the Atlantic as I sank into my deck chair, mystery novel resting open in my lap. The gentle sway of the ship rocked me like a cradle. Couples strolled past with cameras, aiming at the horizon where the sun kissed the sea. This was contentment. This was what 40 years of work had earned me. Then I heard it, rapid footsteps. "Grandpa!" Lily's voice cracked with panic as she burst onto the upper deck, cheeks flushed, eyes red with tears. She stumbled between loungers, scanning until she found me. My book slid to the floor as I stood. In 10 years, I'd never seen her look so terrified. "Princess, what's wrong?" I pulled her close, feeling her small frame tremble against me. She glanced over her shoulder toward the interior before pressing her mouth to my ear. "We have to leave, right now. They're going to hurt you tonight." A chill spread through my chest. "Who's going to hurt me?" "Lily, you have to tell me exactly what you've heard." She swallowed hard. "Mom and Dad." Her voice was almost lost against my shirt. "I went back to get my book from their room, and I heard them talking in the bathroom. They said they were going to put something in your drink at dinner. Something to make you sleepy." She stopped, shuddering. But I already understood. "Are you absolutely sure?" My voice stayed steady, though my thoughts spun. My own son, planning to kill me? They said once you were drowsy, they'd take you outside for fresh air, but really they'd push you over the railing when no one was watching. They said it would look like an accident. An old man losing his balance. The deck beneath my feet might as well have tilted. Derek and Evelyn, planning my death with the calm precision of a household errand. They talked about timing. Lily whispered, eyes darting toward passing guests. Something about the dinner seating and how the deck patrol changes at 9:30. That detail cut deeper than anything else. This wasn't panic-driven impulse. They had a plan. A schedule. A method. Listen to me, princess. I held her by the shoulders, forcing her to meet my eyes. You did exactly the right thing. You're braver than most adults I know. And now we're going to handle this together. But what if they see us talking? She asked, voice trembling. What if they realize I overheard them? They won't. We'll be careful, very careful. My mind spun through every possible scenario. First, you're going to the kids' club for movie night. Stay there until I come for you. And whatever you do, don't go back to their cabin alone. What about you, Grandpa? What if they still tried to slip you that drink? Leave that to me. I forced a calm smile, though inside I felt like I was falling through endless emptiness. Sometimes the smartest way to trap someone is to let them believe their plan is working. The ship's dinner bells began chiming through the decks, summoning passengers to the evening meal. Through the large windows of the dining room below, I spotted waiters in crisp white jackets lighting candles on tables set with sparkling crystal and polished silver. Lily hugged me tightly. Promise me you won't drink anything they give you. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise, sweetheart. Now go have fun at the kids' club. This will be over soon. She raced off toward the ship's activity center. I remained at the deck railing, watching families file into the dining rooms, laughter and chatter drifting upward. Somewhere beneath me, Derek and Evelyn were getting ready to join me for what they thought would be my last supper. My fingers clenched the railing as the full weight of betrayal crushed down. The son I had raised, supported, and loved without condition had decided I was worth more dead than alive. But they had made one fatal error. They underestimated the courage of a 10-year-old and the determination of her grandfather to protect her. 90 minutes later, I sat alone at a quiet corner table in the ship's elegant bar, pretending to scan the dinner menu while my eyes tracked every movement around me. The Ocean View lounge hummed with pre-dinner cocktails and polite conversation. Crystal glasses caught the warm glow of amber lights. I had chosen my seat carefully, back against the wall, a clear view of every entrance, close enough to the bar to overhear orders but far enough not to seem suspicious. My phone lay beside me, voice recorder app ready, though the screen was dark. Then Derek's voice boomed across the room with forced cheerfulness. Frank! There you are. We've been looking all over for you. They approached wearing practiced smiles. Derek in his holiday shirt, Evelyn in a flowing sundress that surely cost more than most people's rent. But now I saw the cold calculation behind their eyes, the predatory glint I'd been blind to for years. Mind if we join you? Evelyn slid into the seat opposite me without waiting for an answer. We thought we'd have a drink before dinner. Like a proper family vacation. Of course. Derek signaled the bartender. 3 martinis. Grey Goose, extra dry, just like Dad always orders. The bartender nodded and began preparing the drinks, but something in Derek's tone made my skin crawl, too precise, too insistent. I'd never cared about vodka brands, and Derek knew it. Actually, I said smoothly, closing the menu, I'm feeling a bit queasy from the ship's motion today. I'll pass on alcohol and stick to ginger ale. Derek's smile flickered for a brief moment. Come on, Dad. 1 martini won't hurt. We're celebrating family time together. The last family time we might have, Evelyn added, with what she probably thought was a touching note. Her words would have been darkly ironic if the situation weren't so terrifying. She was right. This could be our last time together, just not for the reasons she imagined. Thanks, but my stomach's been off since lunch. I motioned to my midsection. Sea legs aren't what they used to be at my age. You two go ahead and enjoy yourselves. Derek's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Dad, it's just one drink, for family harmony. His voice carried unmistakable pressure now. He needed me to drink that martini, badly enough to push despite my refusal. The crushing reality that my own son was trying to poison me settled in, but I kept my face calm. How about this instead? I stood, pulling out my wallet. Dinner's on me tonight. Order whatever you want. Celebrate properly. I'm going to walk off this nausea and meet you in the dining room. Before they could protest, I left cash on the table and headed for the lounge exit. Behind me, I heard Derek's frustrated sigh and Evelyn's sharp whisper. He's being difficult. I pretended to head for the elevators but slipped down the corridor toward the guest cabins. Their stateroom was on deck 5, and the ship's layout allowed me to position myself close to their door without drawing attention. 20 minutes later, their voices carried clearly through the thin walls. He suspects something, Evelyn hissed, sharp with irritation. Did you hear how he refused the drink? He's never done that before. Maybe he really is seasick. Don't be naive, Derek. Dad's been sailing longer than you. He doesn't get seasick. A glass clinked sharply, probably set down hard. We'll have to be more direct. What do you mean? Tonight, during his usual deck walk, he always takes that stroll around 10 o'clock to look at the stars. The patrol shift changes at 9:30, just like we planned. 15 minutes with minimal security. My hands trembled as I started the voice recorder on my phone, holding it close to the wall. Push him over. Derek's voice was a faint whisper. It's the only way now. Make it look like an accident. An old man slipping on the wet deck. The insurance will pay out, and we'll inherit everything in 6 months. I'd heard enough. More than enough. Back in my suite, I played the recording 3 times, each replay deepening the horror. My son's voice plotting my murder with the casual tone of planning a grocery run. The life jacket hanging in my closet caught my eye as I paced the small sitting area. They believed they were stalking a defenseless old man. Little did they know, the old man was now the one doing the hunting. The harbor pilot boat steered us carefully through the coral reefs encircling Hamilton. Standing at the ship's railing, I watched Bermuda's pink sand beaches and pastel-colored homes grow closer. Behind a life preserver rack, my escape bag rested quietly, packed with essentials, and the recorded proof of my son's murderous scheme. 14 hours had slipped by since I uncovered the truth. 14 hours of sleepless strategizing, pacing my suite, while Derek and Evelyn presumably slept soundly below, convinced their prey was none the wiser. With mechanical precision, the gangway was lowered and dockworkers fastened the colossal ship to the concrete pilings. Passengers spilled out, buzzing with excitement about shopping in Hamilton and swimming in the crystal-clear seas. I could join them, step off this ship, catch a flight to New York, and report everything to the police from the safety of home. Let Derek and Evelyn explain to the authorities why they plotted my murder. My hand tightened on the bag strap. Grandpa! Lily's voice rang across the deck as she ran toward me, dressed for our shore excursion in a sunny yellow sundress and sandals. Isn't it beautiful? Look at the water, it's like swimming in liquid jewels. Her joy stopped me cold. Behind her, I saw other children bouncing with excitement, families preparing for a day of snorkeling and beach adventures. Normal families. Happy families where grandparents didn't have to run from murderous children. Princess, I have some business to take care of on shore, I said, the lie bitter in my mouth. Boring grown-up stuff. You go with your parents and have fun. Her face crumpled instantly. But you promised we'd go snorkeling together. You said you'd show me how to find conch shells. I know, sweetheart, but sometimes grown-ups have responsibilities. No. The word burst out, fierce and urgent. Grandpa, please don't leave me alone with them. Please don't go. There was something in her voice that made me study her more closely, fear. The same terror I'd seen yesterday when she warned me about the poison. They'll hurt you if I'm not here to stop them, she whispered, clutching my hand tightly with both of hers. And if you leave, who's going to protect me? The question hit me like a punch to the chest. In my desperate focus on saving myself, I'd forgotten the most important truth. Lily would still be trapped on this ship with two people who had already proven they could kill. People who might decide a 10-year-old witness was too risky to keep alive. Suddenly, my escape bag felt like a coward's solution. You're right, Princess. I knelt to meet her gaze. I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together, remember? But what about the danger? What about what they're planning? Sometimes the best way to deal with bullies is to stand up to them, not run away. I squeezed her hands gently. And sometimes grown-ups need to learn that bad choices have consequences. At that moment, Derek and Evelyn emerged from the ship's interior, dressed for their own shore outing. They spotted us near the gangway and exchanged a meaningful glance. Derek approached with his usual fake cheerfulness. Not going ashore, Dad? Bermuda's supposed to be amazing. I changed my mind, I said evenly. I think I'll enjoy the ship's amenities while it's less crowded. They exchanged quick looks, recalculating their plans based on my unexpected choice to stay aboard. Well, we're off to explore Hamilton, Evelyn said brightly. Should be back by 4 o'clock for departure. As they walked down the gangway, I watched through binoculars from the upper deck. They stopped at the dock, heads close together, speaking in hushed tones, planning, scheming, figuring out how to handle their victim's defiance. Mr. Miller? A uniformed officer approached, a man in his mid-30s with sharp, alert eyes. Security Chief Michael Smith, according to his name tag. Just the kind of competent authority I'd hoped for. I understand you wanted to discuss a security concern? I'd called ship security 20 minutes earlier, reporting my fears about passenger safety. Now, watching Derek and Evelyn vanish into Hamilton's bustling streets, I felt the first flicker of real hope since this nightmare began. Yes, Officer Smith. There's something serious I need to report. Threats to passenger safety by individuals who think they can commit crimes at sea with impunity. The hunter was about to become the hunted, and Derek and Evelyn had no idea that their carefully crafted murder plan was about to turn into their own undoing. 2 hours after deciding to stay and fight, I strode toward the ship's bridge, the small voice recorder heavy in my jacket pocket. The evidence of my son's plot might save my life, or make me seem like a mad old man. Watching Derek and Evelyn vanish into Hamilton's streets while I stayed aboard sharpened something inside me. I was finished playing the victim. I knocked on the captain's private quarters near the bridge. Captain Johnson? Frank Miller from Suite 8A. I need to discuss a serious issue regarding passenger safety. The captain was a seasoned man in his 50s, with steady gray eyes that had weathered every storm the sea could deliver. He motioned me to a leather chair opposite his desk, expecting perhaps a minor complaint about cabin service or the meal. What can I do for you, Mr. Miller? I set my phone on his desk and hit play. Derek's recorded voice filled the small room with chilling clarity. Push him over during his late walk. The insurance will pay out, and we'll inherit everything within 6 months. Captain Johnson's expression shifted quickly from polite interest to sharp alertness. He listened to the entire recording twice, his jaw tightening with every replay. Mr. Miller, are you telling me your own son is planning to murder you right here on my ship? That's exactly what I'm telling you, I said, pulling up the timestamps. I shared Lily's initial warning and described the failed poisoning attempt. They'll try again tonight during my usual deck walk. The captain leaned back, studying me carefully. Why come to me instead of just staying in your cabin or leaving the ship when we dock in Bermuda? Because I have a 10-year-old granddaughter trapped with 2 people who've already proven they're capable of murder. If I run, what happens to her when they realize she overheard their plans? Something in my voice convinced him. He reached for his radio. Security to captain's quarters. Officer Smith, priority 1. Within 3 minutes, Michael Smith arrived, a man in his mid-30s, alert and professional, someone who clearly took passenger safety seriously. Captain Johnson played the recording again as I detailed the situation. Sir, this is attempted murder conspiracy, Officer Smith said grimly. We should notify the authorities immediately. No. The word came out firmer than I intended. If you arrest them now, Lily loses her parents. She's only 10. She needs them, even if they're. I couldn't finish the sentence. So, what do you propose? The captain asked. At 11:30 tonight, I take my usual walk on the upper deck. They'll come for me like they planned, but this time, you'll be ready. Officer Smith frowned. Mr. Miller, you want us to use you as bait? That's extremely risky. I'm 68 years old, officer. I can't outrun or overpower them, but I can outsmart them. I held his gaze steadily. With your backup, we can catch them in the act and end this without destroying my granddaughter's life. For the next hour, we mapped out every detail: communication signals, positioning, backup plans. Officer Smith and 2 additional security officers would be concealed nearby. I'd have an emergency whistle in my pocket and hand signals ready for immediate help. What about the little girl during all this? Officer Smith asked. She'll be safe at kids' movie night until midnight. She won't even know what's happening. When the meeting ended, Captain Johnson stood and shook my hand. Mr. Miller, I've been at sea for 30 years. I've seen family disputes, desperation, even violence, but never a father showed this kind of courage to protect his granddaughter while still giving his son a chance to choose differently. Sometimes being a parent means making impossible choices. Back in my suite that evening, I sat at the desk and wrote a letter to Lily, just in case things went wrong. Instructions for contacting my lawyer, directions to access college funds I'd set aside for her. Assurance that she'd be taken care of no matter what happened to me. The sun set over the Atlantic, painting the water in gold and crimson. In 6 hours, I'd either be dead at the bottom of the sea or watching my son get arrested for attempted murder. I sealed the letter in an envelope addressed to Lily and tucked it into the desk drawer. At 11:25 p.m., I stood before my cabin mirror, checking my reflection one last time, gray hair combed, cardigan buttoned, the perfect image of a harmless old man out for a quiet evening stroll. The emergency whistle felt cold in my palm as I slipped it into my pocket and made my way to the upper deck. Under the starlit sky, the upper deck stretched empty, ocean waves lapping gently against the hull 15 stories below. I took my position at the agreed spot along the starboard rail, hands clasped behind my back like a contemplative, elderly gentleman gazing out over the endless Atlantic. To any passerby, I looked alone and vulnerable. But Officer Smith waited in the shadows near the lifeboat station, flanked by 2 other security officers stationed strategically. My emergency whistle rested warm in my palm, ready for the moment everything went wrong. Dad? Derek's voice came from the darkness behind me, falsely concerned. What are you doing out here so late? I turned slowly, unsurprised to see Derek and Evelyn approaching from the deck entrance. Both were clad in dark clothes, black pants, navy windbreakers, designed to blend almost seamlessly into the night. Couldn't sleep, I said quietly. Sometimes the ocean clears my head. You should be more careful wandering alone after dark, Evelyn said, stepping between me and the deck entrance. The rails get slippery with sea spray, Derek added, closing the distance. Not exactly easy for someone your age to keep steady. Now flanking me, they gradually herded me toward the ship's rail. Their movements were practiced, deliberate, clearly rehearsed. Actually, my balance is just fine. I straightened to my full height, locking eyes with Derek. Just like my hearing was yesterday when I overheard your plan to shove me overboard. Derek's face paled in the moonlight. What are you talking about? I know everything, son. The poison in the martini that didn't work. The plan to stage my death as an accident. The inheritance you're desperate to claim. My voice remained steady despite my pounding heart. I even know about the 15-minute window when security switches shifts. You're delusional, Evelyn snapped, though her eyes nervously scanned the deserted deck. We came up here because we were worried about you, she said, stepping to block my other escape route. Derek tried to force me backward toward the rail, his grip tight with desperation and decades of resentment. But I had prepared for this. I pressed the emergency whistle to my lips, shrieking its piercing warning across the deck. The sound cut through the night like an alarm, bouncing off the ship's structure. "Security! Security!" I shouted as Derek wrestled to control my arm. "Shut up!" Derek hissed, trying to clamp his hand over my mouth while pushing me toward the edge. "No one's coming to help you." That's when Officer Smith stepped out of the shadows. "Step away from Mr. Miller." Now. 2 more security officers appeared from opposite sides, their flashlights slicing through the darkness like beams of steel. Derek released me so quickly I nearly stumbled. "This isn't what it looks like," Evelyn said fast, raising her hands defensively. "We were just trying to help him get back inside safely, by guiding him toward the rail." Officer Smith's tone was calm but firm. "Turn around and put your hands behind your backs." "This is entrapment," Derek protested as the handcuffs clicked shut. "We weren't doing anything illegal. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted assault, and endangering passenger safety," Officer Smith recited. "Mr. Miller, are you hurt?" I steadied myself on the rail, adrenaline making my hands tremble. "No. Just glad you showed up. Wait until the press hears about this." Evelyn spat as they cuffed her wrists. "An old man tricking his family with the help of his granddaughter. Enough. Enough." My voice cut through her anger with quiet authority. "You tried to kill me for money. Lily saved my life because she loves me. The only trick here was thinking you had souls left to save." As they were led away, Derek glanced back once. "This isn't over, Dad. Money changes everything. You'll see." But standing alone on the deck afterward, watching stars shimmer on the endless ocean, I realized he was wrong. Money hadn't changed the things that truly mattered. 45 minutes after their arrest, I sat in the security office giving my formal statement, while Derek and Evelyn were processed next door. Through the thin wall, I heard Derek's angry protests mixed with Evelyn's cold attempts to bargain for freedom. "Mr. Miller," Officer Smith looked up from his report. "We'll have to notify authorities at our next port. Nassau police will want to interview everyone involved." "No." The word surprised even me with its finality. "Sir?" I thought of Lily, asleep in her bunk, innocent to the horror that her parents tried to murder me. "Officer Smith, what happens to my granddaughter if her parents get arrested and jailed?" "She'd likely go into protective services until family can be arranged," he replied. "She's 10 years old. She's been through enough without losing her parents, too." I leaned forward. "What alternatives do we have?" Officer Smith frowned. "Captain Johnson can confine passengers to their cabins for the rest of the voyage. But attempted murder is serious, Mr. Miller. They failed. I'm alive and unharmed. Sometimes justice is about prevention, not punishment." From the holding area came Derek's voice. "This is all lies. We never tried to hurt anyone. That old man's manipulating everyone." Officer Smith looked to me. "Are you sure about this?" "Officer, I've spent 40 years in business. Sometimes you win by crushing your opponent. Sometimes you win by making sure they can never threaten you again." I stood slowly, feeling every one of my 68 years. "Confine them to their cabin for the rest of the cruise. Ban them from common areas. I just want 3 more days to enjoy with my granddaughter before we return to port. And after the cruise? After the cruise, they'll have serious choices to make, whether I'm around or not." The next morning, brilliant Caribbean sunlight poured through my suite windows. I found Lily at the kids' club breakfast buffet, chatting excitedly with new friends about the day's plans. "Grandpa!" She ran to hug me, her face lit with pure 10-year-old joy. "Can we go snorkeling today? The activity director says the reef has parrotfish." "Absolutely, princess. Just you and me today. What about Mom and Dad? Are they still feeling unwell?" I knelt down to meet her gaze, choosing my words with care. "They need to stay in their cabin and rest for a few days. Doctor's orders. But that just means more adventure time for us." Her face brightened with the pure delight only a child knows when given an unexpected treat. Just us? Really? Just us. The last 3 days of our cruise unfolded exactly as I'd hoped when we first set sail. Precious moments with my granddaughter, watching her marvel at colorful tropical fish and coral reefs, teaching her how to shuffleboard on the ship's deck, reading side by side in the library while the ocean waves stretched endlessly beyond the windows. Meanwhile, Derek and Evelyn remained locked away in their inside cabin, meals brought by room service, cut off from the joy and beauty that surrounded them. Occasionally, I caught sight of them through their porthole, Derek pacing in frustration, Evelyn staring down at her phone, likely calculating their shrinking chances. On our final morning, with Manhattan's skyline just emerging on the horizon, Lily and I stood at the ship's rail, watching the sunrise paint the sky with coral and gold. "Grandpa, this was the best vacation ever," she whispered, leaning into my side. "Even better than I dreamed." "For me too, sweetheart." "For me too." I felt the emergency whistle still tucked in my pocket, a silent reminder of how close we came to losing everything. But we hadn't lost. We had won. Not through vengeance or destruction, but by protecting what mattered most. As the ship pulled into Manhattan and passengers gathered their bags, I kept one hand on Lily's shoulder and my eyes on the security officers escorting Derek and Evelyn toward a separate exit. They would face their consequences in their own time. But the little girl beside me would grow up knowing her grandfather chose love over revenge, mercy over punishment, and the strength of family over the bitterness of justice served. Sometimes the greatest victory lies in knowing when not to destroy your enemies, but simply to ensure they can never harm the ones you love again. The sun was fully risen now, warming our faces as we stepped forward into whatever came next. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box to the left. Thank you for watching.